Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Bayishim, Rakah Kudash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bayishim, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May your brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Raya with another video, and I'll be profiling this video on the Timcast YouTube channel titled Fears of Social Order Breakdown in New York City as Burglaries Nearly Double, NYPD Calling in Sick. And societal breakdown will come to the United States of America. Not only are we living in the last seconds of these last days, in the last seconds of the rulership of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, but also America, like ancient Egypt, is the place of hardcore bondage to the true children of Israel, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. America's going to be the cherry on top of the destruction that the Most High is bringing to this planet for its wickedness. You're going to see race wars, civil wars, rape, looting, cannibalism, famines, even more pestilences, and ultimately 200 million nuclear missiles hit this place, turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate wasteland afterwards. What's about to happen is going to be worse than any other point in human history, even worse than the days of Noah, as it says in Matthew chapter 24. So to you sincere Akim out there, now more than ever, you should have all 10 toes down in this truth, pushing this word as hard as you possibly can, so you can hope to have that protective hedge of Yahweh Ba'ishim Yahushai over you and be saved from these coming calamities of Jacob's trouble. And in this video, I'm going to start at the 5-minute and 6-second mark.
And as more and more businesses shut down and restaurants can't support, it's just what, takeout and delivery now. In fact, some shops are only doing delivery. That might not be enough. I'd imagine a lot of people are ordering a lot of delivery now. But if these food shops aren't going under, if bodegas, if they can't afford to pay anybody, if the rent can't get paid and these businesses shut down, there's no food, New York becomes a battleground. And if the police call in sick, I don't know what to tell you, man. We've already seen stories of...
Through these scriptures, we can tell you nothing good's coming to this place, whether it be from the coronavirus or some other major event. The punishment from the Most High will not be abated, as it says in Isaiah 55 verse 11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. This is 2 Esdras 15. I'm going to read verse 15 through 19. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. A social order breakdown. Again, there are going to be race wars and civil wars in this country. And that sword in their hands is mainly talking about these guns. Just last month, you had a record number of gun purchases. People are waking up to the fact that something bad is coming down the pipeline. And Yahweh willing, this whole coronavirus situation deteriorates more and more and is the spark that sets off this fire of civil unrest. For there shall be sedition among men. And that word sedition means people going against their ruling authority, like a monarch or government. Not only are these average Joes going to be fighting against each other, but they're going to be fighting against the U.S. government too. That's why you have President Trump activating 1 million military reservists, as well as moving the National Guard and military equipment all throughout the country. And it's not going to stop there. When things get really bad out here, you're going to see UN soldiers and mercenaries fighting against U.S. citizens and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And the modern day kings and princes are these government officials like your mayors, your senators, your governor, the president, and even these police officers. And a low-level example right now of these people not regarding their kings or princes are people disregarding these stay-in-shelter orders from the government. People are still going out and partying and trying to live life like it's normal, which in turn is leading to these government officials enacting more draconian lockdown measures. And also, as we'll see in that video, due to a manpower shortage on the New York Police Department, there's been an uptick in burglaries. People are going to go buck wild from not only being cooped up in their houses, but realizing that the situation isn't going to get any better. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, a state of martial law, And we're seeing the beginning stages of that too up in Rhode Island. If you're if you're somebody from New York who's found by the police, you're going to get arrested and held in quarantine. And also in Louisiana, anybody that leaves the state is going to be detained and held in quarantine for 14 days. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Things are going to get so dire out here that people are going to break into their neighbors' houses, their family members' houses, and even their so-called best friends' houses to take whatever they have. Because as you can see, these grocery stores and other stores are getting more empty by the day, and they're not getting stocked back up. I did a video the other day on how food banks in California are getting pushed to the limit because they've got more people coming to them due to unemployment, and also they're not receiving donations like they used to. And over in Italy, there are people on social media talking about forming gangs and going and raiding these grocery stores for whatever they have left.
Nurses, they're viral videos where the nurses are saying, I can't do this, I have my family to protect. And then they quit. So if Bill de Blasio says we need more, but the economy is breaking down and we can't pay these nurses, what do? I honestly don't know. Because I'll tell you what, Trump wants to launch a second task force that will deal with reopening the economy. I don't think it matters if he wants to do that or not. The virus doesn't care if you open or not. If we open up the economy, based on the numbers we're seeing, we're going to see a lot more dead. And I don't know if we're going to have the capability to deal with all of the bodies, because we're already struggling as it is, the economy shut down. Welcome to the rock and the hard place. I understand the points of view from everybody saying we need to, open things up. We need to keep things shut down. You can't do both. I don't know what to tell you, man. Let's read this story. The Daily Mail says, there are fears of a breakdown in law and order in New York as the city's key agencies feel the brunt of the coronavirus. The NYPD has reported that up to a sixth of its force, or around 6,500 members, called out sick towards the end of last week, and the numbers are not expected to improve over the coming days. Things are even worse at the FDNY, with the number of those having to stay at home because of the disease even higher. 1 in 4 members of its EMT paramedic team, about 4,000 people, are currently having to stay off work. Among firefighters as a whole, around 17% are off on sick leave. What if a fire starts? What if someone starts a fire? It's not even about police. It's about empty streets, somebody being desperate or opportunistic, and there's no one around to stop the fire, and it spreads. The combined number of FDNY firefighters and paramedics no longer able to work is around 3,000, according to NBC4. The huge shortfall in those working on the front line of the emergency services comes as the city is expected to enter its worst week so far, as the numbers of deaths are expected to continue to rise as the virus takes hold. I'm going to pause. I would not stay in New York City. I know that some people are going to say, it's weird. I mean, I've had people saying, Tim, you've been very calm and very rational about this whole thing. And I've had other people say I was fear-mongering. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm just going to read this is a news story, all right? This is what is being published on the front page of the Daily Mail, if you care about the Daily Mail. Many different outlets, including local NBC, are saying these things are happening. Will there be a breakdown in law and order? I honestly have no idea. I don't know.
As we just read in 2 Esdras 15, for the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands.
If it were me, I would not be in that city, I'll tell you what. And I'm already getting antsy enough being in South Jersey. I don't know exactly what the right thing to do is. I have friends who've tried to get me to go to their more rural properties. A lot of my friends have been like, bro, we have rural properties. We hang out. We got the dogs. We got food. You need to get out. And I'm like, maybe go somewhere more rural because social distancing is important. We wouldn't be around many other people, reduce the chance, because I'm in the suburbs. So maybe it makes sense for people to start dissipating. There's also the risk, you bring the virus with you. Granted, I've mentioned several times, we've all been essentially, inadvertently, home quarantined for a long time because we all basically work from home. We don't get out as often as we like to. I mean, granted, I have a skate park in my backyard, basically a skate park, so I work from home. Yeah, there's real concerns. Maybe we get out, and we don't even live in New York City. We're relatively far away. I would not stay in New York City if I were you, though, and I mean it again. You know, I've done several promos for emergency food and supplies. I hope you've all taken it seriously and done what you need to do. New York City is a very dense.
And as I just said, if you're somebody from New York who's caught in Rhode Island, you're going to get detained and held in quarantine. So it's not really looking good for you if you do live in New York.
Area. You're not going to be farming any food there. And certainly, even if right now people wanted to, you couldn't do it. I don't know how they're going to get in the resources they need to. If people become desperate and hungry, because who knows how many people actually prepared for this? Probably not very many. I saw one poll that said, I think 65 or so percent of people said that they were preparing. And it was mostly Democrats. The reason this is that Democrat stat is important is that conservatives tend to have already stocked up, and they tend to be in rural areas. So that could be good news, meaning many people in dense urban areas have gotten supplies. But around 35% did not. And that's as a whole. So it's probably fair to say there are many people in New York City who did not get supplies, who are out of work, who can't pay their rent, who are going to be hungry, and at some point are going to say, it's eat or die, I choose eat. And then what happens when they throw a rock through a window, they tear down boarded up windows? Who's going to be there? Will it be the police? I honestly don't know.
They shall not regard their kings or princes, the sedition among men. And when there's no more supplies left, they're going to raid their neighbors' houses with the force of the sword due to that lack of bread.
How will they get supplies in amidst angry, raucous crowds of people desperate? And I mean, we've seen movies about this kind of stuff. We don't really know exactly what would happen. But the one thing that most people seem to think is that you get a big crowd of people desperate for food, they're going to knock down anybody in their way to get that food, especially if they have kids or loved ones. They say the huge shortfall in those working on the front lines comes as the city's expected to enter the worst week so far. The number of deaths expected to rise. Here we say the city's cops say they are sacrificing their own health during the pandemic in order to protect New York's residents, and with every new arrest comes a risk of infection. At what point do the police simply say, I got to take care of myself, my friends, and my family. I can't be out doing this. When the economy breaks down and you can't buy food, are the police going to be like, I'm out? Or are we going to see something like what these communist and socialist countries have done, where instead of paying the officers, they say, we're going to guarantee you food. And then they have, like armored trucks come in full of food. And then the incentive for the police officers is you keep working, you get to eat. Everybody else, not so much. The absence of key emergency response workers comes at a crucial time for the city, as the coronavirus has led to an all-time high in the sheer number of 911 calls, coming in with new records being set almost every day over the last week. To put in some perspective, a busy day would normally consist of around 4,000 calls. However, last Monday, the FDNY had to deal with more than 6,500. FDNY Deputy Commissioner for Public Information Frank Dwyer called the volume of calls received over a 3-day period the largest in our history. Wow. Residents are now being advised not to call 911 unless the symptoms they are experiencing are severe or not related to the COVID-19 disease. The grim outlook also applies to hospitals too, with facilities stretched to the limit on staffing, bed, and equipment. Look, we can see this. New York City Fire Department emergency medical technicians wearing protective gear. They're carting someone out. Over at the NYPD, the virus has hit just as hard, with 1 in 6, or about 18%, either sick or quarantined. The presence of the disease has added a whole new level of stress and anxiety to the work of officers, with every arrest or interview being the potential to be infected by the virus. It's a stressful job at the best of times, the police commissioner, Dermot F. Shea, said last week. Right now, I don't think you can imagine a worse point in time. Officers are falling sick in areas that endured some of the highest crime rates, including the Bronx, Washington Heights, and Harlem. Some precincts report up to a third of their members were unable to report for duty, according to the New York Times, and there are no guidelines that dictate exactly what should be done. Emergency protocols for those used after a terror attack or even after a hurricane are different to what is occurring now, with the emergency lasting several weeks and sickening hundreds more each day. One thing that has made the work of city cops slightly easier is the absence of any events of large gatherings, which they would normally have to patrol. And so that's the threat, I suppose. What happens when people start getting angry? They've been pent up, they're locked in their cubicle-like apartments. Man, I've seen some of the videos of people in New York apartments. They're cubicles. These people are going to get cabin fever and they're going to get hungry and they want to go out and they're being told they can't. People are still packing trains. They're still coming out in parks. I'm hearing from my friends in New York. They look out the window and there's people doing their thing, not caring. This is not going to stop.
Not regarding their kings or princes, which is all by design. The powers that be are having these people stay in their homes and go crazy and then want to do anything they can to get out of their homes. And then that justifies them saying, look, these people aren't following our orders. They're getting more people infected with the coronavirus. Now we got to come with more draconian lockdown measures.
Stop anytime soon. Bill de Blasio says the peak is coming, but people are still out doing their thing. You think it's going to come anytime soon? Not if people aren't taking it seriously. And then what are the cops going to do when a ton of people come out desperate because it's gone on too long? The virus doesn't care about the economy. Perhaps, as many have said, so Trump wants to do this task force. Maybe it'll work because there's a certain way we can get the economy kick-started again while protecting lives. But I think then we're going to see, maybe a flattening of the curve, but it's going to be worse than it is now. Wow, here we go. Rape, robbery, and assault crimes have dropped significantly compared to the days before the lockdown was implemented. That makes sense. Nobody wants to go outside. Nobody's on the street, and that's really helping us. According to data released by the NYPD for the last month, between March 16th and March 22nd, there was a 17% drop in major felonies, while grand larceny was down 31%. Misdemeanor assaults were down by 21% compared to the same time last year. Although many city streets remain quieter, with all but essential businesses open, shops along some of the more wealthier streets, including parts of 5th and Madison Avenues in Manhattan, and the trendy Soho neighborhood, have boarded up their shop windows just in case there is civil unrest. The wealthy, it's funny. I talked about a storm coming, hurricanes. They board up their windows because the wind will send things flying. They're scared of people. That's what they're worried.
Apostle Gabar did a video on how these businesses are boarding up their windows, and he made a very good point. A lot of these people that own these higher-end shops are Masons and in these other different clubs, so they've got an inside scoop of what the powers that be are going to do, so they could be very well telling them, look, civil unrest is coming, so board up your shops so you don't lose that much money or get that much damage.
Worried about. They think there's a good chance people will come out. The rows of boarded up buildings are a stark reminder of the newly unemployed workers who lost their jobs after the scale of the outbreak forced stores, bars, restaurants to shut their doors for the foreseeable future. The NYPD is reporting a 75% increase in burglaries of commercial premises compared with the same time last year. I think it's fair to say the civil unrest is here. 75%? No wonder these businesses are boarding up. It's not so much about civil unrest. It's happening. The looting is already happening. This is nuts. You call it a burglary. I call it looting. The stores are all shut down because of a crisis. Someone comes in, breaks in, and steals stuff. That's looting, dude. Wow, man.
Hey, and it's going to get so bad to where after these stores have been completely looted of their goods, it's going to get to that point to where they're going to, again, go into their neighbors' houses and spoil them with the force of the sword. And we do know through the scriptures that these stores are eventually going to be empty. This is 2 Esdras chapter 6, verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses, these grocery stores, these electronic stores, these high-end clothing stores shall suddenly be found empty.
Increases coincided with the dates when the city ordered bars and restaurants to close. We knew with the closing of many stores that we could see an increase. Unfortunately, we are. There's been an increase in the number of supermarkets and eateries being burgled. Here we go, man. Man, I told you, people are burglarizing supermarkets. Burglarizing, breaking in and stealing stuff. In Sicily, the story that I read said that a ferry service that would bring food to the island shut down, went out of business. People are hungry, and so they went to these markets and just took what they wanted. The riot police had to be dispatched. Call it fear-mongering. Call it whatever you want. I just call it realism. The number of police calling in sick is going up. The amount of people who die every day in New York is dramatically increasing. We're seeing trucks come in with, carrying body bags. 75% increase in burglaries. If I were anywhere near New York City, I would get out. Now, it is fair to say...
That's pretty much it with that video. But as Joachim can see, with each passing day, the situation deteriorates more and more. So again, Now's not the time to be getting weak in the faith. You should be strong in the faith and be pushing this word as hard as you can to make that calling and election sure and be saved from these coming calamities. So with this video, I hope you sincere Akim are edified. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala. Till next time, Shalom.